Welcome back to the Bleeding Hearts Club, where we alchemize pain into something beautiful together. I'm your co host, Shroot. I'm an astrologer who helps you use astrology as a self reflective tool for healing and growth. And this is my co host, Stevie.
Hi, Shroot. Hi, y'all. My name is Stevie. I use they and she pronouns. I'm a tarot reader. I was about to say astrologer. That's not the truth. Reiki practitioner, death worker, mental health practitioner, provider. I don't know. Anyway, that's me. Nice to be here with you.
So today we are back for another episode, and we are going to be talking about the fear that comes with being at the precipice of change and what it looks like to be scared and to take action anyway, and what it feels like to live alongside your fears. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time. Usually we talk about our little topic first and then we do our horoscope. But today we are going to actually work it into the horoscope because it is so relevant for what is going on in the astrology right now. I guess let's get into the tarot horoscope. You want to get us started, Stevie?
I sure do. Okay, I'm using the Radiant Wild Atlas tarot deck. We'll link it, of course. Sorry, my cat is sitting on the first card. Thank you.
Hi, Maya.
Okay. Maya, shout out. Okay. So the first one that we have is called the Two of Wands. Hooray. Um, yeah, what a trip. The what is it called? The affirmation that comes with this card in the book is I carefully plan my expansion. And I want to differentiate between that and like taking a calculated risk because I think by default, so many people that listen to this podcast are operating on calculated risks, and that's not it. This is something different. Um, but this card is asking us to be very clear on what our goals and intentions are. What do we want? I think we have like lofty, kind of ambiguous goals of what we want. Like, I want more money. I want my relationships to be better. I want to feel, confident in my job. And those are like great starting points. And we can make these asks, but I think when the goals remain ambiguous and kind of lofty in these ways, we think we'll know it when we see it or when we feel it. But until then, we just feel really, I don't know, disenchanted by the things that we do have or what we are experiencing because it doesn't feel like it's not like this big, I don't know. I don't know why I want to say bubble, but like it's just this thing that we're looking for. It's almost like, you know how in cartoons, or maybe not even cartoons, but like they'll have like a horse and they tie a carrot to go in front of it. So like the horse is just like constantly trying to walk and reach for the carrot, but it's all a ruse. They've been bamboozled. It kind of feels like how we're operating. Like we have this thing in front of us that we want, but the steps that we're taking are just keeping us, I don't know, I don't want to say complacent, but it's just like keeping us on the journey rather than like doing other things to try to get this carrot, I guess. I don't know if this makes any sense. It's a little early for me. Um, but the great thing is that you're open to wanting something and open to trying to get it for yourself. But the downside is you need to be clearer on it. It's still a bit aimless. So do something to be very clear on your intentions and goals. I do this all the time. Like I've talked to Shroot so much about like, you know, this is like what a dream job could be, or like this is what I want, this is what I'm feeling. And then I never write it down. Shroot always tells me to get clear on it. Shroot, it tells me all the things I'm telling you right now, but I never do it until I get like pushed to a point of no return. Um, but I will go on Indeed and just look through so many jobs and I can notice what I don't want. Like, I don't want this job. I don't want this job. I don't want to work in this kind of facility, or like, I know what I don't want, and it's very clear to me when I see it. The harder thing is knowing what I do want and actually being able to name it. I felt like it wasn't until I saw like an agency or a group practice and I like went through their website and I was like, whoa, this is everything, everything that they're writing, everything that they say, like their framework is really resonates with me. But I wouldn't have been able to put words to that. Like, I really did have to see it in order to, I guess, like know it for myself. But now I see it and I see the wording and I see the framework, and I can just use that to, like, I think better inform what I'm aiming for and what I want to work towards and build. Um, so if you have seen things that are like, I do want that, and maybe it just feels inaccessible right now, like maybe you can't have it or access it in this moment, but I do think it's still really important to make note of it, even write it down, and just remember what it kind of sparked within you and what it means to you, I guess. So make a vision board, write down a list of all these traits, your non negotiables, even if it feels like too much, even if it feels inaccessible. You have no idea what's actually out there. Do a meditation to immerse yourself in the feeling that you're looking for. But also, I don't know, maybe check out one of Shroot's moon manifestation workshops, question mark, exclamation point, Shroot.
Yeah, so we are going to be setting new moon manifestation intentions for the new moon in Scorpio on November 22nd, which is a Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is a virtual workshop that I host every month for the new moon. And for the new moon in Scorpio, we're going to be setting intentions on cultivating safety through times of transition. And so I think it's really in alignment with this podcast's theme of being scared and doing it anyway. And so that's going to be the focus, where we'll cover a horoscope in depth as well as practical strategies for how you can apply the horoscope and hold on to yourself this month through all these changes. And then we'll set intentions to help you feel safe toward times of change. So yeah, I love that. Thanks for plugging my workshop, Stevie. I think it totally fits this car.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having the space to do this and having something tangible. Yeah, to access. Okay, you ready? Wait, that's my card. What does the Astro say?
Yeah, horoscope. I think that this month is really a fight for dominance between Uranus and Saturn, where we have Uranus retrograding into Taurus on November 7th, where it has its final run through Taurus. And that is a transit, it's been for the last 8 years. And what it does is it is causing a wrench, throwing a wrench into all of the aspects of our life that we almost take for granted. Everything that we kind of like bank on as something we can expect in our lives. If you think about it, probably everything in your life that you've banked on is up for question, in the last 8 years. And so that's kind of a big transit, and everything that hits Scorpio energy this season, the Scorpio season, is going to be in opposition to this Taurus Uranus. So Uranus is definitely going to be throwing some wrenches into this month of things that we are unexpectedly dealing with, and maybe even a little bit of jeopardizing access to the things that we kind of bank on, just for one last time for kicks. And that's fighting for dominance with Saturn. And Saturn is retrograding in Pisces, and it's going to finish its retrograde on November 27th. And so it's been in Pisces for the last 3 years, and anybody who has Saturn in Pisces natally, like me and Stevie do, you're in your Saturn return. And so this is your final pass through of the Saturn return. This is our final stretch that we're in the middle of. And all of the Sagittarius transits, as well as the Scorpio transits that are happening this month, are impacted by this Saturn. And so Saturn is the one in this card that is winning, and Saturn is the one that is asking us to be a little bit more like diligent with our approach. Uranus is very much like a pinball, just wherever the ball moves, whatever knocks it, whatever way, that's where we're going and that's what we're doing. Whereas Saturn is like, no, no, no. Like, let's put some brakes on the operation and let's take an assessment and let's like plan. Let's make a plan. Because Saturn is like, I know what happens when we don't make a plan. I know how much chaos it is, and I know how much farther we could go in life if we just made a plan. Now, the problem is Saturn is in Pisces. Pisces is not a plan-oriented sign. And so basically, as much as like it's so important that we make a plan, all of the planets are not necessarily working in our favor to make a plan. Like the astrology is not supportive of this strategy. But the reason it's really important to push through anyway is because things are going to be changing so rapidly next year, starting next spring, that it's really important that we know what we want now. And I think one of the most beautiful ways that we can connect with the Saturn and Pisces energy is that what Stevie's talking about when it comes to planning is tapping into desire. What do you want? And what do you want to feel? And how does, what if getting what you want, like what would that even feel like, and how often do you connect with that? And so that is something that Saturn and Pisces can really excel at, because Pisces energy is all about like visioning. Pisces energy is all about, looking at the future, imagination, and really connecting, in an embodied sense. What would it feel like to do this thing that I'm imagining? And so that is a really powerful thing that we can tap into this Scorpio season, where we can ask ourselves, what do I want? And, what will it feel like to get what I want? And can I connect with that feeling now without having even gotten that thing? And so, yeah, my moon manifestation workshops, that's exactly why we do them. I am a Saturn and Pisces person. I live like this. And I'm a big believer in manifestation for that reason, because I think that it helps us really, from a somatic standpoint, connect to our bodies and connect to our desire, and really help us understand the importance that feelings have when it comes to sharing information about ourselves and where we are at in any given moment. What do we really want? And so there's so much value in that. And so even though it doesn't seem intuitive this season to put that in place, to plan and connect with your desire in this like organized way, it's worth leaning into. It's going to be an unexpected strategy that really benefits you. And I don't think it's an accident that, the cards are going to be a little intense. The astrology is even more so intense. I don't think it's an accident that this is the first card that jumped out. I think this is very much like something that's going to be a theme for the rest of the Saturn and Pisces transit, which is until February, where we need to just like be a little bit diligent with our approach to our dreams. And so that's the theme.
Every time. Every time. Okay. Thanks, Shroot. Are you ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
Okay. The next card is Six of Cups, and it's upright. Okay. The affirmation for this one is the past is the past. So when I was sitting with this card, I felt like, I don't know, when you look back on your childhood and your life, at what point did you stop feeling safe enough to be carefree or creative or light or playful? All of these things, like just such really buoyant, effervescent energy. And maybe it's hard to recall the time where you ever felt that way, which is very real. And I'm sure from a young age, you started to feel the heaviness of the world around you, the people around you, the expectations around you, and you've had to adapt and warp yourself. Honk, honk, absolutely. You've had to adapt and warp yourself around the heaviness. Um, I live in that. Like, I very much live in life is so serious, and I have to take it serious, and I have to be serious, which is hard because I'm also very playful and like, I don't know, childish, but I really stew in the seriousness and heaviness of my life, my world, everything around it. But this week was, well, the week that we're recording, um, was my sister's birthday. And if you're new here, my sister is not alive. So I do my best to kind of connect with her on her birthday. And she was very, I don't know, she talked so fast. She talked so fast and had so much to say, but like in a very bubbly, lighthearted kind of way. And my sister didn't have an easy life either. But every time I pull a card or every time I try to connect with her in some way, the message is to be happy. And I remember one time, my dad was talking to my sister's daughter, and he said like, like I'm sad today. I don't know if it was like the her death anniversary or her birthday, but her daughter was like, don't be sad. Like she would want you to be sad. And I don't know, I really ground into that when things feel so heavy. But on my sister's birthday, the message choose happiness really stood out to me all day. And I even saw like little signs about like choosing happiness. And just randomly, my friend, I won't say their name because I don't know if I have their permission to say their name. But my friend just randomly sent the group chat a picture of a quote from Robin Wall Kimmerer. Kimmerer? Yeah. Who's an Indigenous author of really beautiful works. But the quote was, even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift. And they didn't know that my whole like motto that day was I choose joy, but it came to me at a really beautiful moment. And when I told them, we were like, wow. So that is a message that I want to give to you as well, because there's a lot of heaviness in the world, a lot of anger, a lot of hatred, a lot of fear, but there's also a lot of joy. And I think we really need to root into joy because that's that's what keeps us alive. That's what keeps us going. But yeah, that's where I will land this plane. Shroot.
Yeah, by the way, if you hear any honking, I'm so sorry. I'm still in India and it is impossible to filter out there's no such thing as a soundproofed room. So, it is the lovely soundscape of India that is joining us today. So you might hear dogs, you might hear honking, you might hear the train, but I think we like to look at it as emphasis to our points. But yeah, I think that's such a powerful point. And I think you've talked about your sister and in the context of choosing happiness before on this podcast. And I think it always fills me with such a grounded sense of like knowing about this topic. I don't know. There's such a I've never met your sister. I, know very little about your sister, but every time you talk about this, it feels like so true to me. Like I can feel the like almost like density of the knowing of this like truth of like choose happiness. And I think that's so tremendous. And I'm really glad that you had somebody in your life like that that could be that like pillar of just unvarnished, choosing joy. And actually that reminds me a lot. I think even in the context when you talked about your sister last, I might have brought up my friend Xandra, who passed away, as a cancer survivor and passed away in 2021. And I actually cannot connect with her spiritually. She did not really believe in anything after this life. She was very much a skeptic of all things spiritual. But what I loved about that was that her whole point was this is what we've got, and we have to be here and in it. And she had beautiful Sagittarius placements. She was a Thanksgiving baby, so I'm also thinking of her this month. And right now Mars is in Sagittarius, and Mars is going to be in Sagittarius through the whole month of November. And Mars is the planet that has to do with the energy we bring to everything that we do. And Mars being in Sagittarius, I think, is a sign for us to find the joy, because it's no accident that Scorpio energy is all about the buried wounds, being with the density of a situation, being with all the things that we don't want to talk about, don't want to feel, and being in that heavy, heavy, stagnant energy to just really be honest with ourselves about what we're wounding about and like what we're hurting about and what we're, not really willing to face, but need to face for our own kind of well-being. And it's no accident that after that kind of intensity and depth of feeling comes Sagittarius energy to kind of like almost turn a new page and say, okay, I know and feel all of this, and I am choosing light, and I am choosing to move forward, and I am choosing to grow and change and expand. And I have total faith that there is more in this world that awaits me than this thing that is holding me down and holding me back. And I think that she always embodied that. And so I think that Yeah, when you talk about your sister in this way, it reminds me so much of Xandra as well. And she really taught me to just be in the moment and be in the joy of the moment. Make the most of this moment. Suck the marrow out of this moment because this is the moment that we have. This is the moment that's real. Let's choose joy. You know, what else can we do? And so I think that in the face of the uncertainty, the intensity, things changing, I think it's really powerful that we really focus on where can we embrace the lightness in our lives and where can we view the lightness as a fire that we can nurture and tend to, and that it is, you can think of Calcifer, right, from Howl's Moving Castle. It's like you need to feed Calcifer, like, your joy is something that needs to be fed. It's not something that can sustain you without sustenance. And so thinking about what practices, and Mars being in Sagittarius specifically, Mars is the planet of taking action. So it's like, what practical, real life, material, tangible actions can we take to stoke that fire of joy in our lives? How can we keep that fire, burning? How can we allow it to rejuvenate us? How can we allow it to burn away all of the density that we're holding on to? And so what I find is that when I'm too deep in the Scorpio pits, I think it can be pretty hard to find the light, and it can be pretty hard to really stoke that fire and nurture it and grow it bigger because all we're kind of seeing, hearing, and feeling is the density. And so, what I would really encourage, if anybody else can relate to this, what I have found is that the biggest thing that I think is important to lean into when we are trying to put down like very heavy emotions or heavy beliefs or heavy energy is that we need to have faith that things are going to expand. Things are not going to stay the same, that there is room for growth in both yourself and in the situation, and that you will not be in this feeling forever. And so I think it's really important, if we cannot have faith in anything else, you know what I mean? Just having faith that things will not be like this forever, and really try to hold on to the like physical expansion that you can feel in your body as a result of having that faith. And seeing how you can allow that faith, what other areas of your life can you let that faith spread toward? So I think that's kind of like the most important thing to hold on to with this Mars and Sagittarius transit. There's so much kind of positive forward momentum that this transit can offer us if we really stoke that fire of joy and take practical actions to cultivate that fire of joy in our life. So for example, I'm really looking forward to, I love watching funny movies with my friends because we sit there and crack jokes on top of the movies together. And I think that laughing with my friends is one of the biggest things that brings me joy in my life. And so far, my cousin has a beautiful dog, and her name is Jules. And she looks like she always has a smile on her face. And she's just the most precious thing ever. I love her to death. And so I really enjoy being with her and just like watching her smile. And I love a doggy smile. I feel like a doggy smile brings me so much joy because they just have like the like sassiest little smiles. Like there's so much personality in a dog smile. And so yeah, so those are my kind of two things that like are bringing me joy and are stoking my fire. And so I'd love to know, Stevie, what's stoking your fire of joy this month?
I think what is stoking my fire of joy this month? Honestly, I got a pretty good setup in Long Beach. I have a really beautiful community and friends that I get to see literally every day. Um, Literally every day, like multiple times a day, because we live on the same street. So it's really sweet when my spouse and I get to like go on walks and run into people, or just like we see our friends in the morning and then we see them in the afternoon, and then we're just like, do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to watch this show together? Um, I think just like being with people, who would have thought my Libra placements would love being with other people. And just I think I'm also really lucky because the community I have is very, I don't know, it's like we're on the same wavelength. And we all have very similar values. And I really feel like I can just be myself with them, and I can be honest with them, and like we can be honest and authentic with each other. And it feels really safe. So that really, I think being able to engage with folks in a really loving, caring, supportive, safe, and playful way so often is really, really keeping me going. And so I'm really thankful for that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And yeah, I love that both of our answers were community. That's very on brand as Libras. And beautiful. Nice card.
Yay. Okay. You ready for the last card?
Jeez.
All right. Okay, the last card is strength. Hooray! The cards were like, I'll throw you a bone this time. The affirmation for this one is I soften into the cosmos. And I am very confident that a lot of people that listen to this podcast are strong, very resilient survivors, scrappy, scrappy do. But that also might have made you jaded or closed off, maybe even tense, like physically holding so much tension in your body. I'm going to invite you in this moment to loosen your grip, relax your muscles if you can, and take a deep breath. Shroot, I know that you can't right now just because you're set up, but if you can, anyone else, please do so and get into just to the practice of like letting go and sinking in and softening because I know for me, I'm always tense. I am shoulders to my ears, lower back super tight, jaw clenched all the time. And I haven't figured out a way to not have that be the default, but I have been practicing noticing when that's happening and just allowing myself to release and soften and let go. Even though it doesn't fix the whole thing, it's at least giving my body and myself some room. Um, so yeah, I was thinking a lot about this card in relation to my readings that I've gotten from Shroot over the past, I don't know, 5 years. Especially 6 years is so crazy. Yeah. Oh wow. But a lot of the readings, like the themes of my Saturn return, because I was very much preparing for my Saturn return. I'm in my Saturn return, and now I'm getting ready to like not be in that. Um, but even for my birthday reading that I got from Shroot the other week, like my biggest takeaways from these readings have been that all of these patterns and challenges from my life, especially during my upbringing, they're going to come back in very intense ways. That it was a promise and a threat. And it's up to me about to decide, I guess. It's up to me to decide whether or not I'm going to let these patterns crystallize as I settle into adulthood. That is the framework that Shroot gave me. And every time I was like, I'm letting them crystallize. I can't do this. I don't want them there. But these are all ways of being that I adapted to doing because they helped me survive. Because when these defenses, like, I guess, formed, it was because I was in a place of fear. I was scared. I was worried. Something was threatening me in some way. So, of course, when these defenses are being tested by these patterns, by these challenges, it's going to bring up fear. And I guess that is something that I've had to really zoom out in and look at a little further. Like, okay, just noticing that I am in a fearful place, in a fearful state. Like, what does that mean? Like, I guess the presence of fear is almost like a little notification, like, hey, this is an opportunity for you to either do the same thing that you've always done and let that crystallize into adulthood or do something different. And I'm not always picking something different because, again, it's scary and it's easier to just do what I've always done. And it feels safer, even if it's not safe. It's safe because I know it. It's safe because I know that I've gone through it and it's a well-oiled machine, but it's not really worth it. Like, I get really down on myself when an opportunity presents itself and maybe I don't set a boundary, or I don't communicate clearly enough, or I overextend myself instead of, just not extending myself at all. I guess the fact that I'm feeling disappointed in myself is also an affirmation that I do want something different, that I don't want to continue repeating these patterns or behaving, connecting in this way. And that in itself is like, I guess that's my little calcifer, like that wants to be fed. Like, how do I feed this part of me that wants something different? So I guess, yeah. So that's just my little thing. But part of what I'm realizing too is that I, at a default, am bracing myself for the worst. Like, even in my body, like I said, I'm always tense. My jaw is so tense right now. My shoulders are so tense right now. I'm always bracing myself for something, and it makes me really closed off. I have walls up. And I think the fact that I'm always preparing myself for something to happen really stops me from softening into the cosmos, like this card is saying. But also like moving from a place of openness. I can't receive anything or connect in any way if I'm so closed off. I can't make the changes that I want to and build this life that I want if I'm closed off and preparing for the worst, because it's also like indiscriminately closing myself off from all the beautiful, happy, joyful things that life has to offer. And I guess when I was like thinking about this, I kept seeing, it feels so cliche, but like those motivational posters, um, like I just kept seeing an image of someone jumping from one cliff to another. And like, imagine what that has to be like, to jump from one cliff to another with nothing underneath you. It's just space and maybe impending doom if it goes wrong. But you really have to run full force with open arms. You're not seeing this person like jump with like their arms like holding themselves, like their arms are wide open. They're like completely open, and they're going to land, hopefully. But I think about that shifting to complete openness and surrendering. And that feels really scary, obviously. But there are some ways, I think, in addition to just allowing yourself to soften and release tension, there's one practice that I want to give y'all in like being supported, which is okay. I'm curious as to how you're all sitting right now. I know for me, I'm leaning forward. I am leaning into the computer, mainly because I have to get these angles in a certain way. And the lighting has to be in a certain way. But I wonder what it feels like to just sit back into your seat. And I'm not going to do it right now because, again, these angles have to be a certain way. But like, what does it feel like to just sink into your seat and let yourself be supported by a chair or a pillow or something, and just let yourself be supported and not have to do anything? And notice what comes up for you, I guess. And just think about that, but in like the context of you and the universe. Like when you open yourself, when you let yourself sink in, you are going to be held. Every part of you is still going to be supported. It's just a matter of letting yourself experience that and opening yourself to do that. Okay, that's my little therapy practice for y'all. That is this card. It's okay to be scared, but also feed this fire, do something different, and be open. Start with your body if that feels accessible too. Okay, Shroot, all you.
Oh, that was so beautiful. And that's been my favorite topic this year of softening into the cosmos. And I definitely think it's been a huge theme. Literally everything you said is such a drag for me too. It's like we are just passing the drag back and forth, like the $20 as millennials. It's so hard when you've like spent your whole life bracing against the worst case scenario, which I'm the same way. It feels so hard to soften. And it's so interesting that you say this because I spent last month going to a physical therapist twice a week. And I was getting I guess it was kind of pelvic floor physical therapy, but it was pretty much whole body physical therapy. But one of the most powerful things that she taught me that no practitioner has ever taught me before is how to soften. And maybe other people have brought it up, but no one really actually reached me. And then she did. And she really taught me how to physiologically feel what softening feels like in my pelvis first. And so it's like such a profound experience to feel like the muscles in and around my hips and in my pelvis area stop bracing. Like for me, I found out that the source of my bracing was actually coming from my pelvis and less so everything else was like a knock-on effect of my pelvis. And so with her, working with her, it was the first time in my entire life that I had experienced a softening in my pelvis. And I think what's beautiful about when you experience that kind of softness or like experience a different state of being in your body that you didn't know that you could experience before is that immediately it widens your possibilities of what's possible. You're like, oh, like if I could feel this for 2 seconds, maybe I can feel it for three. If I can feel it for 3 seconds, maybe I can feel it for 10. Like, there's so much kind of like, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy of like the more that we persist and make any even incremental gains, the more that they fuel our ability to keep making those gains. And so, I haven't seen that physical therapist since like the whole month of October, and I like won't see her until I come back to India again. But I'm so excited to take this softening practice, and it's been something that I've been working on my own, and I feel so motivated and excited to work on it because I never believed it was possible. And it was only until I experienced it, then it made me be like, oh, I should be seeking this out because who knew this was possible? What else is possible in this realm, you know? And so that is, I think, what the cosmos have to offer us. They have to offer us this expansive ability beyond what we think is possible for ourselves, and especially when it comes to sensations that we feel in our body. Right now, the kind of, I think a big main character of the next like month or two, like basically the rest of the year is Jupiter in Cancer. Because Jupiter in Cancer, is a transit that only happens every 12 years, and it is a very, very joyous place for the planet of Jupiter to be. And Jupiter rules philosophy, higher thinking, big picture focus, expanding what we think is possible, expanding anything, good or bad. So it can be overdoing stuff, you know, the kind of excess, right? The negatives that excess can bring into our lives. That's definitely Jupiter as well. But it basically can take us places that we've never been before and things we've never experienced before. And Jupiter being in the sign of Cancer, I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but it really has to do with the cosmic mother. And it has to do with, you know, Cancer energy is all about mothering and being mothered and feeling mothered. And this is something that Stevie's been working on with me in my readings is what does it look like to cultivate that feeling of being mothered? What does it look like to mother myself? And to really step into what is my identity as a mother to myself. And so that's been a project that I've been working on this year. And I feel like the softening practice has like opened so many doors on that front because I think that so much of the experience of mothering, especially in like a healthy expression of it, is feeling safe enough to soften. Like, you know, it is in our mother's womb that we come to exist. And it is like, you know, being able to like feel that same level of safety we felt to come into this world. How can we kind of like make ourselves feel that way as adults, you know, and maybe regardless of the relationship that we have with our mothers, and to mothering in general. Like, so I think it's really powerful to look beyond just this material world and just the hard evidence that you have in favor or against softening, or the hard evidence you have in favor or against of believing that it's possible for you to soften. And I think it's really valuable to spend, you know, until next June, July, calling in the cosmic mother and saying, hey, cosmic mother, can you show me how soft I can get? Can you show me how much I can soften in relationship to you, with you, how much we can soften together. And really trusting that this is not like a rational exercise. It doesn't have to make sense, but the priority is that it's about faith and it's about trusting that you don't have to see it. There doesn't need to be like a person that comes to you as a material figure and tells you, but having faith that like this Jupiter in Cancer transit only happens once every 12 years. It's here during, the biggest astrological shifts happening in our entire lives. Jupiter in Cancer is also here, in addition to those transits, asking us, hey, soften and trust me. It's going to be okay. Just lean into what comes next with an open heart. Like Stevie said, jump from that cliff with an open, wide arms and have faith in the universe and the cosmic mother specifically. So one of the things I was telling Stevie in the readings that we've been doing, but especially the one that happened, and it actually came up in multiple readings, so I feel like it's worth bringing up in the podcast, is that this is a really powerful time to ask the universe, how good can it get for me? And I was telling Stevie specifically, how good can it get for me? Because a lot of us, bleeding hearts, we want things for other people. We want things for the good of society as a whole, but we don't necessarily center the goodness for ourselves. And that is the question that I want to leave you with, is how good can things get for me? So when you're feeling scared, when you're experiencing the transitions that are happening that are so overwhelming, I know just, if you're listening to this on the same week that it's going up, we have so many shifts happening in the sky, and we have a Taurus full moon on November 5th, and it's just such an intense time to be alive right now. And so in the face of all that intensity, all that discombobulation, all that like warring between Uranus and Saturn for dominance this month, connecting with Jupiter and connecting with the cosmic mother and saying, how good can this get for me right now? How much can I soften in the face of my fears? And trusting that your fears are real, but they are not your reality. And so it's really important to understand that your fears are a mechanism trying to keep you safe. They are not reflective of the objective truth of reality, because A, there's no objective truth of reality, but B, your fears are like driven by past data. And right now the world is changing so much that your past data is not going to be all that useful or relevant. So when we talked about letting go of the density of emotion in the second card, and we talked about, embracing lightness, embracing, vitality, embracing, joy and positivity, it's like, those are things that are going to be present even as the world changes. Those are kind of human experiences that are not going to shift. They are a constant in your life. They are something that you have access to at all points in your life. Even under some of the worst conditions possible, people are still looking for joy right now, and they are finding it. So in the face of all of this fear, your fear doesn't have to be the only voice in the room. And so if you yourself cannot conjure any other voices in the room, then it really makes sense to lean into the cosmos, lean into the universe, lean into a bigger picture that you cannot possibly see or comprehend, and trust that it's there. Trust that it's there for you, and to directly call onto it. So asking the universe, how can I soften? How much can I soften this year? Show me how much I can soften. Show me how safe I am to soften. And to be looking for evidence that you are safe to soften in your life. Because I think that's the first step to actually being able to soften, is to be looking for evidence. Why is it safe to soften? And as the world changes, why are you safe to soften? And in large part, the answer is going to be because your community relationships, you know what I mean? We soften collectively, we soften together. I don't think that I could have made any progress on the concept of mothering to then have all these thoughts to share with the podcast if Stevie hadn't pushed me there, and Stevie's saying the same thing with their fear. It's like Stevie wouldn't have made any progress with their fear if we hadn't talked about it in readings. So much of the growth available to us is available, or even the safety available to us, is purely rooted in community, and it's rooted into the togetherness that we all share and experience. And so if we can trust factually that the togetherness that human beings experience, the collective shared communities that we form, like if those are the things that keep us safe, then why can't we also believe that there is a cosmic community and that we can tap into and receive the benefits of that cosmic community? So that's my spiel for why you should care, even if you're like a rational person that's like, I don't believe, what does space have to do with me? I totally understand that. I was like that for most of my life. And I think that so much of what astrology has taught me is that it's not about believing in it in the sense of like, okay, the stars do have an influence on my life, right? And believing in that. You can believe in that, but it's not necessarily about that for me. It's that whether I believe in it or not, this is a tool that has seriously positively benefited me and changed my whole life for the better. So I don't need it to be true empirically for me to have value associated with these practices. So that's where I source my belief from. I believe that the thing that helps me is the thing I'm going to keep doing. I don't need science, or I don't need like, empirical evidence to prove why I believe in this, or if I should believe in it or not, or belief being a part of the equation. It's more that like I have faith in the strategies that work for me, and I'm going to keep doing what works for me. And so I encourage you to kind of keep a little bit of an open mind if you're typically a skeptic, because there is a lot of positive cosmic expansion, and the cosmos have so much space for your grief, and they have so much space for your fear, and it's space that extends beyond the space that other human beings can give you. And so why not use it? You know what I mean? Like, it's like an extra garage you didn't even know. Now you can fill it with all your shit. Like, you might as well. So yeah, I think, fears can be really scary. They can be really overwhelming, but they are really just one facet of the human experience. They are not everything. And if you can look for things beyond your fears, and you can trust that, hey, things don't have to make sense, because we don't live in a time where things make sense, but I can move forward anyway. I can believe that there is better out there for me anyway. And so I'll leave you with that.
Mhm. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, you're gonna need it. But we'll be with you. And I think this is a good season if you have questions. If you are noodling with something, you're stuck, you're overwhelmed, you're frustrated, if you're scared, what are you scared of? What are you having a hard time moving through? Feel free to leave us a voicemail on Instagram. You can DM us at bleedingheartsclub.pod that's the app, bleedingheartsclub.pod. And you can leave us up a voicemail, up to like 2-3 minutes, and a voice note, not a voicemail. Or you can email us at bleedingheartsclub.pod@gmail.com, and you can write us a little paragraph, maybe like 5-6 sentences max, with your issue and as much context as you can possibly give us. And you can include your birth date, time, and like city, country, location for a reading, that we will pull a tarot card and we will give you an astrology joint tarot reading for you. So we would love to hear it. We would love to, as a community, move through all these things together. We've gotten so much overwhelming feedback about how useful other people's suggestions, so either topic suggestions or questions that people write in, how useful they've been for our other listeners. So if you're hearing this and you have something on your mind and you feel comfortable being anonymous and sharing, trust that you are actually going to help a lot of other people who are listening, and it can help you maybe feel a little bit more connected to a community if that is something that you are feeling in absence of. We are happy to be here with you, and I know all of our community members are happy to be here with you as well. So please feel free to write in. And any final thoughts, Stevie, before we wrap up?
Not a single one.
Great. I have a new background for those of people on YouTube who are watching this. If you're listening, go look at the background on either the social medias or the YouTubes, because you'll see it there. But I would love to know what you think about it, because I'm feeling it. I've been looking for a background to match Stevie's for a minute now, and I haven't found one I liked. But I was in Goa last month, and I took this photo walking along the path to the beach. I'm gonna move so you can see it. Not that anybody can see it listening, but it's like a tropical forest full of palm trees, and it's very cloudy because there's monsoon, and it's just very dark green and lush. And give me feedback, tell me what you think. And I've been having an absolute blast in India. I feel more rooted in my sense of self, sense of home. I think it's been really powerful to connect with my family on my own terms as an adult, like my extended family, I mean. And so yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with them now. So
Yay. Have fun,
yay.
Shroot.
Thank you so
Safe
much.
travel.
Thank you. I will be on your similar time zone, not same time zone, but similar soon. Next time we link up for this podcast, I will be back in the States. So sending you all well wishes, everyone, and we will see you next month.
Yeah. See you when we see you.
Bye.